So in this video, we're going to look at reflexive verbs. This is a concept that we don't have in English. So for right now, we're just going to map out the technicalities of this concept and understand it in our own native English language. And then we will transition into looking at it in Spanish and the Spanish pronouns. So the definition of reflexive verbs is the subject and receiver of the action or the verb are the same. So basically what that means is the person or thing that is doing something, the action, is also receiving that same action. And so if we look at this, I sit myself. That in Spanish is a correct grammatical sentence. Whereas in English, all we would need to write is I sit in order for it to be grammatical and correct. And so as you can see with the Spanish, I, the subject, sit, the action, myself. So I and myself are the same. For English, I sit, that is obvious. I am sitting my own body on the chair. Whereas with Spanish, we need to map it out more concretely and not allow it to be as ambiguous potentially as it might seem in English to them. So now we're going to come down and look. So we have non-reflexive, and then we have reflexive. So reflexive would be where the subject and the receiver are the same. So if we look at a sentence, I see myself, and then I see him. So if we look at, for non-reflexive, we look at I, the subject. If we were to label it as an A, see him. So A and B are different. They are not the same. So A sees B. But if it's reflexive, then I, A, see myself. So it goes back and forth. This would be, say, in a mirror or in a reflection. So the subject and the object are the same. They are receiving it. One way that I like to think about them and their differences is that when you throw a ball, you are throwing the ball to someone. A is throwing it to B. I am throwing it to my brother. Whereas with reflexive, I like to think of a boomerang, because a boomerang, you throw it and then it comes back to you. So when you are forming sentences, you can look at them and say, okay, am I giving or throwing or doing an action that is to something else other than myself? Or am I doing an action such as I see myself or I sit myself, that ultimately that action leads back to the speaker, to me, the subject.